Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Iran gets a new president. The moderate leader, Masoud Pezeshkian, brings hope of a recovery in the country's economy and also greater engagement with the global community. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Both the leaders agree to work towards an early conclusion of a mutually beneficial FTA. Starmer scraps the Rwanda scheme for illegal immigrants.
Look, the Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Look at the numbers that have come over in the first 6 and a bit months of this year. They're record numbers. That is the problem that we are inheriting. It has never acted as a deterrent.
France votes in a runoff polls. This is on Sunday. 577 seats make up the National Assembly. More than 200 candidates have dropped out in an attempt to block the far right, a surge that's taking place there. An India-Russia joint venture delivers 35,000 AK-203 assault rifles to the Indian Army. Defence facility in Amethi is now fully equipped for large-scale manufacturing of rifles. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the reformist candidate Masoud Pezeshkian on his win in Iran's presidential runoff election. India and Iran share good relationship with historical, cultural and economic significance. And this is despite the West's sanctions against Iran. Let's look at this report to put things into perspective.
Mr. Masoud Pezeshkian is introduced as the elected person of the 14th round of the Islamic Republic of Iran's presidential election.
Masoud Pezeshkian is Iran's new president. The moderate leader defeating hardliner Saeed Jalili in an election that promises to bring change and reform in the country that has for long been at the receiving end of the sanctions.
With Mr. Pezeshkian, the sanctions will likely to be lifted, and that's very good for the people.
He is a cardiac surgeon by profession and may require to use his surgeon's hands on the heart of the economy to find ways to free it from blockages and roadblocks caused by hardline policies of his predecessors. Iranians clearly want more opportunities and lower prices.
Honestly speaking, I just hope the expensiveness decreases and jobs are easily found for young people, and that's it. I do not have any other special feelings, and I'm happy that Mr. Pezeshkian was elected.
However, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei retains ultimate authority, and that puts the brakes on Pezeshkian's ability to carry forward far-reaching economic reform. India and Iran have close ties. The strategic Chabahar port is a project that India has invested in to create avenues for trade with Afghanistan and Central Asia. Iran's relations towards India are unlikely to change, and India is expected to continue to source crude oil from Iran. It remains to be seen how Pezeshkian deals with what Iran terms as the Zionist regime in Israel. Iran supports Hamas in Palestine, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthis in Yemen. At the core of easing sanctions is its ties with these forces, its nuclear ambitions, and close ties with Russia. Bureau Report, DD, India.
Newly appointed British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has swung into action after his Labour Party surged to a landslide victory in Britain's parliamentary election. The British Prime Minister held his first cabinet meeting on Saturday and later said that he will need to take tough decisions and he's going to take them early. He said that with raw honesty. Earlier in a conversation, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the British Prime Minister, and both the leaders reaffirmed their commitment to deepening the India-UK Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Let's look at this detailed report.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with his British counterpart Keir Starmer on Saturday and congratulated him on being elected as the Prime Minister of United Kingdom. Both leaders reaffirmed their commitment to deepen India-UK Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Both sides agreed to work towards an early conclusion of a mutually beneficial free trade agreement. Both leaders also recalled the historic relations between the two countries. Appreciating the positive contributions of the Indian community in the social, economic and political development of the United Kingdom, the two sides agreed to continue to promote close people-to-people ties. Prime Minister Modi extended invitation to PM Starmer for an early visit to India. Both leaders also agreed to remain in touch. India-UK ties assume special significance in the backdrop of record number of Indian origin MPs elected to British Parliament. The number of Indian origin MPs from different political parties has reached 26. Among them, 19 lawmakers are from Labour Party, 6 from Conservative and 1 from Liberal Democrat. Meanwhile, Britain's new Labour cabinet met on Saturday, a day after the party surged to a landslide victory in Britain's parliamentary election. Starmer, who has promised to deliver change and provide political stability in the United Kingdom, asked his cabinet colleagues that a huge amount of work is ahead and they have to swing to action.
I welcome you to it. We have a huge amount of work to do, so now we get on with our work.
Later in a news conference, Starmer talked about his government's policies and said that Rwanda scheme did not work, so it will be discontinued.
Look, the Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Look at the numbers that have come over in the first 6 and a bit months of this year. They are record numbers. That is the problem that we are inheriting. It has never acted as a deterrent.
British Prime Minister said that very soon he is going to take tough decisions in the interest of the country. Bureau Report, DD, India.
Well, DD India's Ollie Barrett now joins us from London with more on the story. Ollie, how representative is the UK cabinet, of gender and ethnicity? Does it reflect also the Labour Party's priorities?
It's not quite as diverse as the statistics we were hearing in that report on the overall UK Parliament, but it is diverse in terms of education history. There are more people in this cabinet who were educated by state means rather than private education than any cabinet before, and you do also have a record number of female MPs in key positions. You also have the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer in Rachel Reeves, and you have David Lammy, Foreign Secretary, who is a black man and used his own welcome video to that post to talk about being a descendant of enslaved people.
Also, Ollie, are economic analysts worried about more government spending, deficits and the return to high inflation?
Not because the Labour Party's plans don't involve a huge boost in spending. They have their own fiscal rules, which were actually the same as the Conservatives' fiscal rules, to see debt falling as a proportion of economic output by the 5th year of a plan. What there are some concerns from economists about is the challenges the UK economy faces and whether Labour's manifesto accurately reflects the plans needed to hit some of those targets that it wants to see in improving public services.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ollie Barrett, for joining us from London. Now, poll fever has gripped France as the nation prepares for the second round of voting in the National Assembly elections on Sunday. All eyes are on the National Rally Party led by Marine Le Pen. It had topped the first round of voting. Concerns are mounting over the party's far-right ideology and its potential impact on French politics and society. DD India's Abhishek Bose reports.
The French capital, Paris, woke up to a normal day with people busy going for their regular activities. However, the country is gripped in poll fever, with France all set for the second round of legislative elections on Sunday. concerns and apprehensions writ large on the faces of ordinary Parisians as far-right National Rally Party is on top after the first round of polls bagging a third of the votes.
Alors, je suis assez préoccupé parce que
I am worried of the rise of the far right gradually in election results, and I cannot really see who win the majority in this election.
However, a section of Parisians are optimistic with the rise of far right. All political parties are appealing to the French voters to come out and vote in large numbers on Sunday so as to change the outcome of this all-important election. Opinion polls suggest that National Rally, the far-right party, led by Marine Le Pen, could turn out to be the largest party, but falling short of getting an absolute majority. This means that for the first time since World War II, a far-right party might lead the government, but it's not yet a sure shot. Meanwhile, the contest is becoming interesting as some mainstream parties pull out of the race to support the candidates most likely to beat the far-right party. As a result, several surveys now show the far-right party might win fewer seats, making it even harder for them to get a majority. On Friday, in last-ditch effort, French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal joined a presidential party candidate on the last day of campaigning. Prime Minister Gabriel Attal has appealed to voters to block National Rally from winning Sunday's general election. Not just the political corridors, the election buzz also spilled over onto the soccer fields.
Plus que jamais, il faut aller voter. Là, il y a vraiment urgence.
It is an urgent situation. We cannot let our country fall into the hands of these people. It is pressing. I think we saw the results. It is catastrophic. And we really hope that this is going to change, that everyone is going to rally together to go and vote for the right party.
French voters will cast their final votes on Sunday. There are 577 seats in the National Assembly, including 13 overseas districts and 11 constituencies that represent French citizens abroad. For an absolute majority, a party needs 289 seats. The National Rally Party is hoping to win most of the 577 seats in the National Assembly. If they succeed, the 28-year-old Jordan Bardella would become the next Prime Minister of France. Emmanuel Macron could still be the president after the election, but he will have to choose a Prime Minister from the party or alliance that has the most seats in the National Assembly. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
And still to come here on DD India News Hour. The US President Biden faces a growing revolt in his own party to end his campaign for the White House after his debate with Donald Trump. Russia claims to have taken control of the village of Sokil in the Donetsk region. And Hamas accepts US proposal on talks with Israel over hostages.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Russia's defense ministry has said its forces carried out group strikes with high-precision weapons and attack UAVs on airfields, energy facilities and fuel storage facilities over the past week. Meanwhile, the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, he's confirmed that NATO is helping Ukraine to prepare for joining the military alliance. Let's look at this report.
The Russia-Ukraine conflict is going on with no end in sight. Russia's defense ministry said on Saturday that Russian forces had taken control of the village of Sokil in the Donetsk region of Ukraine. Russia launched an overnight drone attack across Ukraine, hitting an energy facility in the Sumy region in the northeast of the country. Ukrainian mobile drone hunter groups and air defense units shot down 24 of the 27 Russian drones fired on 12 regions, the Ukrainian Air Force said. Ukraine's national grid operator, Ukrenergo, said the energy facility in the Sumy region was damaged, forcing emergency electricity shutoffs for industrial consumers in the city of Sumy. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has said NATO is helping Ukraine to prepare for joining the military alliance.
We will agree to work more closely with the Ukrainian armed forces, including at the new NATO-Ukraine Joint Analysis, Training and Education Center in Poland. We will also work together to build Ukraine's defense industry and deepen our cooperation on innovation. All the work we are doing together is making Ukraine stronger, more interoperable and better prepared than ever to join our alliance.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer reiterated his country's support towards Ukraine.
Unshakable support of NATO and, of course, to reiterate, as I did to President Zelensky yesterday, the support that we will have in this country and with our allies towards Ukraine.
Over the week, the Russian air defense systems shot down 2 MiG-29 and 1 Su-27 aircraft of the Ukrainian Air Force, as well as 451 UAVs. The Black Sea Fleet destroyed 3 unmanned boats of the Ukrainian Navy. Bureau Report, DD India.
And DD India's Dasha Chernyshova now joins us from Moscow with more. Dasha, what more can you tell us about the operations in Donetsk region? What are the Russian authorities saying?
Well, according to the latest briefing by the Russian Ministry of Defense, Russia now has control over the town of Sokol in the Donetsk People's Republic. This development is believed to be improving the combat positions of the Russian armed forces on this direction. This is following the earlier statements that Russia has taken under control the district Novi in the city of Chasiv Yar, another key location on this direction, and also Stepovaya Novoselka, the village of Novopokrovska in Donetsk People's Republic that has been the gains over the past week. In the meantime, Russia also says that the losses of Ukraine over the past week on the fronts of Ukraine have amounted to 2,000 soldiers only on the Ukrainian side during the course of one day. In the Kharkiv direction, we're also hearing that the Russian forces are trying to create the buffer zone. They have been steadily improving their combat positions.
Also, Dasha, how is Russia viewing the visit of the Hungarian leader Viktor Orban? The EU says that he's not speaking on their behalf.
That's right, and we also understand that the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has traveled to Moscow with one goal: finding peace, which is badly needed for Europe. That's why, from his point of view, as we are getting the statements from him, his press secretary, it was important. Now, the Russian Federation says that the visit has been quickly arranged. The request came only on Wednesday, and Russia has been viewing Viktor Orban during this trip as the Prime Minister of Hungary, but notes that no one has dismissed his position as the head of the European Commission at the moment. At the same time, we also know that Viktor Orban announced a series of other unexpected trips to be made next week. The first one, according to the reports, will be taking place on Monday morning. To remind you, Viktor Orban has traveled earlier this week to the Ukrainian capital Kiev for talks with the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, and then to Moscow for the negotiations with Vladimir Putin. And following those talks, he said that the positions of both sides are very far apart, but the important step of starting this diplomacy has been made in these negotiations. We understand the issue of ceasefire has been raised, but Moscow has dismissed any possibility of ceasefire without the substantiative negotiations process starting first.
Dasha Chernyshova in Moscow, thanks very much. An India-Russia joint venture that was set up to produce the AK-203 assault rifles has completed its first phase with the delivery of 35,000 sets to to the Indian Army, and this is at the facility in North Indian city of Amethi. It's now fully equipped to produce the rifles in large numbers. The Kalashnikov AK-203 assault rifle is a version of the AK-200 rifle. The AK-203s, they are manufactured in India in compliance with the exclusive Russian technologies on certified equipments. And this ensures high product quality and compliance with standard, with all the stated characteristics and standards. Now, more than 700,000 rifles are to be manufactured in India as part of the joint venture, the Indo-Russian Rifles Private Limited. It was established between the Indian Ordnance Factory Board, the Kalashnikov concern, and the Rosso-Boro-Export. So these are both subsidiaries of the Rostec State Corporation. The production in India is based, it started last year, and the Prime Minister had inaugurated the factory in 2019. Ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's arrival in Moscow for the 22nd Annual India-Russia Summit, the DD India correspondent who's there, Jessica Taneja, spoke to Mansi Parashar of the Russian International Affairs Council about the expectations and the anticipation from this visit. Let's listen.
We're at the iconic Red Square in Moscow, and I'm joined by Mansi Parashar. She works with the Russian International Affairs Council. Mansi, thank you for speaking to DD India. What is expected from the Prime Minister's visit, and what do you think will be on top of the agenda?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. And I think this visit is going to be a very symbolic one in terms of reinforcing the friendship between India and Russia. And on top of the agenda, I think economics and trade is going to top it all, because the trade ties between the two countries are strengthening, and the diaspora is really looking forward to, building deeper economic ties with the Russians here.
Right. And what are those areas of cooperation where we can expect more discussion, more momentum?
I think pharma is certainly one of them. Besides that, cultural exchanges are also going to be on the hit list, because recently there are a lot of events being organized by the Indian society, and the Russians have been actively participating in them. Besides that, a lot of Russian tourists are enthusiastic about visiting India, so the cultural exchanges will also be in the highlight.
Thank you, Mansi, for speaking to us and sharing those insights. This is Jessica Taneja with video journalist Shubham in Moscow for DD India.
US President Joe Biden faces an uprising within his own party to end his campaign run after the shaky and halting debate performance against Trump on June 27. In an interview with ABC News on Friday, Biden said that only the Lord Almighty could oust him from the race. Early on Friday, Biden told a crowd in a fiery speech at Madison that, some Democrats were trying to push him out of the race. But he talked to ABC News in this interview, and he said that senior Democrats would not ask him to step aside. Here's Fuzail Ahmed with the report.
At the age of 81, Biden faces an uprising within his own party to end his campaign run. Some of Biden's closest political allies, including the former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, have raised questions about his health. But on Friday, in an exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, Biden rejected calls to step aside from the presidential race.
We're not going to do that.
You sure?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'll get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down.
Biden's halting performance at his debate with Trump on June 27 raised serious concerns among some Democrats about his mental acuity and stamina.
I was scared. I mean, I love Joe Biden. I think he's one of the best presidents we've had in the last century. However, seeing him walk on stage and seeing his general demeanor, he's not Joe that he was 4 years ago.
However, U.S. President Joe Biden reassured a campaign rally in Wisconsin that he was running.
I am running and going to win again. I'm the sitting president of the United States of America in no small part because of you. Not a joke. In 2020, you came through for me. I'm the nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm the nominee of this party because millions of Democrats like you just voted for me in primaries all across America. You voted for me to be your nominee, no one else.
In the coming days, party members could decide whether to back the president or move swiftly to push him aside. Senator Mark Warner from Virginia is planning a meeting on Monday to discuss Biden's candidacy. Fuzail Ahmed's report for DD India. Well, hopes for a ceasefire in Gaza have risen further after reports that Hamas has given its initial approval. This is to a new US-backed proposal for a phased deal. According to reports, Hamas has dropped a key condition that no longer requires Israel to pledge a definitive end to the conflict as a prerequisite for temporary halt in hostilities. According to the Israeli Prime Minister's office, an Israeli delegation will be dispatched to the Qatari capital Doha next week to continue negotiations on a ceasefire deal with Hamas. Since the latest round of the conflict, the Israeli government and Hamas have held multiple rounds of indirect talks on a ceasefire, but so far negotiations have failed to produce concrete results because of lingering disagreements over each other's conditions. Here are some other stories making news around the world. The Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico appeared in public on Friday for the first time since a May assassination attempt. Fico is a four-time leftist prime minister who returned to power after winning an election last September. He was shot in central Slovak town, leaving him needing hours of surgery, and he has been recovering at home since the end of May. Venezuela marked the 213th anniversary of its independence with the traditional military parade in Caracas on Friday. The occasion had a political twist as the country heads into a presidential election on July 28. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro said that he would remain commander-in-chief. The dramatic eruption of the Stromboli volcano caught the eyes of local residents and tourists. Etna, one of the world's most active volcanoes, has seen intense activity in recent days, lighting up the sky near the city of Catania, while Stromboli, off the northern Sicilian coast, has spilt lava into the sea. Spain's San Fermin festival began on Saturday with thousands gathering in Pamplona's main square, celebrating after the Chupinazo firecrackers. Dressed in traditional white outfits with red scarves, San Fermin partygoers waited for noon to start the famous running of the bulls. And still to come here on DD India News Hour. So we're going to be discussing the implications of Masoud Pezeshkian's victory in Iran's presidential polls. And the budget session of India's parliament will commence from the 22nd of this month. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now here's a recap of our main stories.
Iran gets a new president. The moderate leader Masoud Pezeshkian brings hope of a recovery in the country's economy as well as greater engagement with the global community. India's PM Modi congratulates UK PM Keir Starmer. Both leaders agree to work towards an early conclusion of a mutually beneficial FTA. Starmer scraps the Rwanda scheme for illegal immigrants. And France votes in runoff polls on Sunday. 577 seats make up the National Assembly. More than 200 candidates have dropped out in an attempt to block a far-right surge. And now we are joined by Ambassador Anil Kumar Trugunayat, former Indian ambassador, who will talk to us about India-Iran ties. Ambassador Trugunayat, do you see Chabahar Port, project and the international north-south transport corridor being given priority under the Pezeshkian administration?
Well, I think so also, because Dr. Pezeshkian is interested in reaching out to as many countries as possible, and India is one of the major countries that has maintained excellent relations despite the odds and constraints. So I think that Chabahar Port, which is also a mutually beneficial project for both Iran and India. Besides, this is also has the blessings of Ayatollah Khamenei. So I don't see that on the Chabahar Port and the international north-south transport corridor, which has acquired a much greater traction now, the collaboration will continue apace. And we already have signed this agreement for 10 years, one of the first agreements for managing a port abroad, which is Chabahar, which is a strategic port for us, and especially for not only connecting with Iran, but also connecting with Afghanistan as well as Central Asia. So I think that India has been helping Iran despite its sanctions, especially in the international fora as well as in the regional organizations like the BRICS and the SCO. You know that Iran got into the Shanghai Cooperation Organization full membership when India was chairing it. And in the last Johannesburg summit of the BRICS, India also supported Iran's inclusion along with others in the BRICS. And so I think that the relationship is mutually beneficial. It is civilizational. It is historic. And Dr. Pezeshkian will continue to support, I think, India's approach in this and involvement.
Ambassador Trugunayat, why is Iran such an important partner for India, in maintaining a sort of strategic balance in the Arabian Sea, also in light of, the Gwadar port in Balochistan?
Well, as you know that from our point of view, Chabahar and between Gwadar port, Pakistan and China, which are involved directly in that port, and this is part of the China-Pakistan economic corridor, essentially aiming at India in that sense. And therefore, Chabahar's location is very strategic and provides us an access, which is essentially obviating the necessity of using Pakistan as a transit to Afghanistan, whichever way we look at it. And so therefore, Chabahar is very important. And now Chabahar has also been included in the international north-south transport corridor, and which is why it's important. Secondly, to send Afghanistan, you remember that India wanted to send 50,000 tons of wheat for relief to Afghanistan, and the Pakistanis were not allowing it. They were creating delays and all that. So now that is something that can be addressed, and it was addressed actually in the last 2 or 3 years. We have seen it. Likewise, assistance that is provided to Iran whenever it has problems is also done through the Chabahar port. And now that Chabahar is in the INSTC, I think it will be far more easier and better to do. But it is important that we continue to confer at the highest level with the new leadership. I am happy that Prime Minister Modi has already congratulated Dr. Pezeshkian on his victory. And it is about 30 days' time that he will take over as the president. And I think that will continue. Plus, what he has stood for under his For Iran project is essentially easing tensions with the various outside powers other than the region. And
So,
yes, so
let's come to that, Ambassador Thrigunayat. To what extent, does Iran's support for Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, affect its relations with the world, and can this change?
No, I don't think so. That will change because you must remember that there is a different kind of a power dynamic within the country. For example, this IRGC, which directly works under the Ayatollah and the head of state and supreme leader, and so therefore they take command from there and not from the president. So they are the ones who remain in touch, who use it as their extended arm in different fields. So I don't doubt very much. But for that to be addressed, it is important that the Gaza war is ended. It is important that the Palestinian issue is resolved. Because today Iran has become a major voice for the Palestinian state. And therefore it is important that those issues, which are the fundamental issues for security and stability in the region, West Asia especially, are addressed. So until and unless those are addressed, we will continue to have these kind of issues. Now, Iran has an influence and sometimes uses them as proxy, as has been addressed by many countries, whether it is Hezbollah or whether it is Hamas or Houthis for that matter. But that does not mean that they 100% control them. And most of the studies have suggested that those organizations also have their own mind and they sometimes continue to operate on their own in their own interest to assert their own presence and their own relevance.
Ambassador Thrigunayat, so do you see a chance of change, in any of the policies that are causing Iran's isolation by the West? Because, we played a story out in which the average Iranian was hoping that sanctions would be removed, that the economy would get back on track, that prices would come down, they would get jobs. So these are the common man's concerns.
Obviously, the domestic discontent is a very major issue. And one of the key issues has been about the women and this hijab campaign, which was started by the conservative government earlier. And the Dr. Pezeshkian has stood against this kind of hijab enforcement. And I think if he's able to pull it off, that will address a very major challenge. Secondly, as far as the issue of the economic sanctions and thus are concerned, a lot will depend essentially on United States. How it reacts to, does it welcome the election of Dr. Pezeshkian, and whether it is willing to reopen the discussions, because very likely we will have Jawad Zarif as the foreign minister, which is quite possible, who has been a great supporter of Dr. Pezeshkian. And earlier he has been involved in all those important negotiations. So that is possible it might open up. But then it is a very short window which is available, because in November, if President Trump wins it, he will once again have the same kind of thing. And that he had withdrawn from the nuclear deal, JCPOA. And so again, we are back to square one. So it is not, everything does not depend on Iran alone. It all depends on the other regional dynamic and the global developments as they take place.
And talking about those global developments, of course, Iran has been close to Russia, but in the new dynamics, this too is a concern for the rest of the world. But also, to what extent do you see Iran's oil, Russia's oil, all this being weaponized if the Russia-Ukraine crisis continues and also the the Israel-Hamas problem continues indefinitely?
Well, I think that this is a very dangerous territory that the world has moved into, that is weaponization of fuel, fertilizer and food, as well as that of weaponization of the financial instruments by the United States and the West. That is clearly creating a very major divide in the global, you can say north-south or east-west or whatever. And we are seeing the new polarization of powers taking place, and Iran will play a role in that. And some people say that there is something called CERN, the China, Russia, Iran and North Korea kind of a grouping emerging. But hopefully that will not happen. It will not be polarized to that extent, and there should be some efforts made. Because see, let's say if President Trump comes to power, most of the people feel that perhaps the Russia-Ukraine war might see some kind of a resolution. Likewise, already we are seeing that Israel-Gaza war, there are discussions going on for ceasefire and exchange of hostages. And if that happens, then we might see some kind of a relief there, because otherwise we are seeing already in the Middle East, Hezbollah is attacking, there are others are working. So what we are seeing today is just the escalation and the blow up waiting to happen at any time, which the whole world has feared, because that will have a direct consequence not only on us, but all the global and value supply chains everywhere.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador
you.
Anil Kumar Turgunayat. Thank you for joining us and enlightening us on Iran's new government. Now, India's parliament, the budget session, it's going to begin from July 22. It's going to run till August 12. The Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju on Saturday announced that India's budget for the financial year 2024-25 is going to be tabled in the Lok Sabha on July 23. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a social media post on X, sent his greetings to His Holiness the Dalai Lama on his 89th birthday. The Prime Minister prayed for his quick recovery after knee surgery, a good health as well as a long life. Let's look at some other stories now making news in India. India's President Draupadi Murmu is in the eastern state of Odisha, and this is on a 4-day visit. She participated in an event marking the 96th death anniversary of the great social reformer hailing from Odisha, the late Utkalamani Pandit Gopabandhu Das. And she will attend the event of the Grand Jagannath Rath Yatra in Puri that begins tomorrow. And India's Vice President Jagdish Dhankar has expressed strong objection to Congress leader P. Chidambaram's statement on the new criminal laws, describing it as commendable, and he demanded Chidambaram to withdraw his comments. The Defence Research and Development Authority or organization, the Defence Research and Development Organization, DRDO, it started testing its light battle tank, the Zorawar, in Gujarat's Hazira. This happened on Saturday. It's jointly developed by DRDO and Larsen & Toubro Limited. The Zorawar it's built, in fact, to meet Indian Army's requirements in the eastern Ladakh sector. This is against Chinese deployment across the line of actual control. Niti AYOG's Sampurnata Abhiyan. It was launched in India's northeastern state of Assam's Buxa district, and this event, it started with an awareness it was an awareness campaign by e-rickshaw as well as a drawing competition. The objective of this mission is going to be to bring out success in the fields of development around there. And still to come here on DD India News Hour. More than 300 domestic companies from various countries are participating in the International B2B Toy Expo 2024 in New Delhi. Also, Zimbabwe shock India and secure a thrilling victory in a low-scoring T20 international match in Harare. India's shuttler Priyanshu Rajawat stuns the world number 4.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. In Nepal, Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal, he's going to be seeking a vote of confidence in the House of Representatives on the 12th of this month. The last few days have been stressful for the Nepalese government as the CPN-UML, which is the largest party in the Delhi government, has withdrawn its support on Wednesday following a deal with the Nepali Congress to form a new coalition. While on Friday, Janata Samajwadi Party, the JSP, what they've done is they've also withdrawn their support from the government. And if the Prime Minister fails this vote of confidence on July 12, he has to resign, of course. But due to frequent changes in the ruling coalition, it will be Delhi's fifth floor test after he was appointed as the Prime Minister on December 25, 2022. The Archaeological Survey of India is working in southern Laos to restore a religious complex of the Khmer architecture, Wat Pho. Now this is to showcase the shared culture between the two countries that spread throughout the Southeast Asian region thousands of years ago. The Wat Pho Hindu temple, it's believed to be over 1,000 years old. It's listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Archaeological Survey of India has prepared the first conservation report and the project plan for the Wat Pho complex in 2005, and it's been working since 2007 to restore the Wat Pho complex.
If we talk about the Angkor Wat Temple in Cambodia or the Mai Son in Vietnam, the Archaeological Survey of India has been doing conservation work since years for these temples outside India. We are joined in by senior conservationist Yogesh Ji from the Archaeological Survey of India. How many years it has the conservation work by the Archaeological Survey is going on at this place? What exactly are you guys doing?
Lao periods share a lot of is culturally similar to India. So one such example is Wat Pho temple. In the year 2005, one is a team of Archaeological Survey of India, including archaeologists and conservators. They visited Wat Pho and they studied this complex. So based on their report, it's the government of India and government of Lao period make a MOU to restore this Wat Pho temple. So based on that MOU, the first team of ASI team came here in the 2009. So this first phase of MOU is for 10 years from 2007 to 2017. So ASI worked here from 2009 to 2007, and we have, as you can see, we have restored many pediments and these 5 galleries in this southern palace and this northern palace.
With camera person AK, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Laos.
The 15th International B2B Toy Expo 2024 began in India's capital, New Delhi, on Saturday. More than 300 domestic companies and over 100 foreign buyers from various countries are participating in this 4-day international toy festival. This fair, it aims to bring together manufacturers, also traders and end users. The Toy Association of India has organized the Toy Biz International B2B Expo 2024. Each year it does so, and this is to boost the scale of Indian toy manufacturers' products among both domestic and foreign buyers. Some international weather news. The tropical storm Beryl appeared likely to reach Texas by late Sunday after its strong winds and heavy rain largely appeared and they had spared some of the Mexican top beach destinations. That's what it looks like. Now the core of the storm, it has downgraded now from a hurricane, and it crossed the Yucatan Peninsula by Friday afternoon. And this storm, which at one point had intensified into a Category 5 hurricane, left a deadly trail of destruction across the Caribbean earlier this week. However, there were no casualties in Mexico. About 5,700 residents relocated after a dam breach in central China's Hunan province. The continuous heavy rainfall has caused waters to breach a dam at China's second largest freshwater lake. Meanwhile, 5 people were killed and 88 others injured after a tornado hit eastern China's Shandong province on Friday. Okay, let's get to the sports news now. And Zimbabwe have shocked India to secure a 13-run victory in a low-scoring first T20 international. This is in Harare. Chasing 116 runs for victory, the visitors got off to an awful start, losing 4 wickets for a paltry 22 runs in the first 6 overs. India were eventually bundled out for 102. Washington Sundar waged a lone battle, but he ran out of partners at the other end. Sundar was the last man to be dismissed for 27 runs. Zimbabwe bowlers had a stranglehold over the Indian batters as 7 of them failed to reach double figures. And the captain Shubman Gill, Avesh Khan and Washington Sundar, they bucked that trend. Gill topped scored. In fact, he hit 31 runs. Captain Sikandar Raza of Zimbabwe and Tendai Chatara took 3 wickets apiece. Earlier, India had also bowled very well, restricting Zimbabwe to 115 for 9. Now, India play this 5-match T20 series against Zimbabwe, and they continue to do so in Harare. The ace Indian cueist Pankaj Advani fell short in his quest to secure a hat-trick of titles at the Asian Billiards Championship. Advani went down against his compatriot Dhruv Sitwala 2-5 in the final round. Dhruv set the tone for the match with an impressive start, scoring 103 points, while Pankaj struggled to get on the board, finishing with 0 points. Pankaj managed to improve his game, scoring 36 points, but Dhruv maintained his dominance with another 100 break. And the match ended with Dhruv Sitwala lifting the trophy. India's men's singles shuttler Priyanshu Rajawat got the better of the world number 4 Anders Antonsen of Denmark. He won 21-11, 17-21 and 21-19. This is the quarterfinal of the Canada Open. Now he's in the semi-final. Earlier, he defeated the world number 24 Rasmus Gemke of Denmark in the round of 32, and the world number 33 Takuma Obayashi in the round of 16. Priyanshu now is going to face Alex Lanier of France for a spot in the final. In a significant move towards e-governance, Hockey India has launched a pioneering initiative that allows players to download their ID cards from the Members Unit portal directly. This development positions Hockey India as one of the first sports federations in India to implement such a digital system akin to the Aadhaar card model. Now, this new system, it offers several key features, including the ability for the players to obtain their ID cards digitally, and also a streamlined process for registration to ID card acquisition, and increased accessibility and convenience. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, you can get all the latest updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available both in Android and iOS platforms, so you can scan the QR code that's on your screen and download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.